Hello everyone, Professor Toybox here along with Aladdin and the Genie. Last time we finished the build exercise for the Agrabah Palace dungeon, which is based on the alpha footage of the Disney Infinity 4.0 Kingdoms project, and today I'm going to start showing you how to build the traps that you can use to defeat enemies. The first trap I'm going to build is for the dungeon entrance. Here's what this trap looked like in the alpha footage. Aladdin pushes a button, which triggers a humorous cutscene in which we see falling boulders knock out the guards. This is how the 4.0 developers introduced players to the new trap-based gameplay. Aladdin then tells the players that they should look for more buttons to trigger traps just like he did. Now, if you watched my playthrough of this toy box back in episode 18, you'll remember that I didn't use the falling boulder trap here. Instead, I built a fire trap. But I want to show you how to build the falling boulder trap in case you want to use it in your toy box, or in case you just don't have access to the rocket engine from the Marvel Battlegrounds playset. So this is what I'm going to do today, and then tomorrow I'll show you how to build the fire trap. This trap took a lot of experimentation and fiddling to get it to work right, and part of the reason for that is that this first trap has to be foolproof. It must work every time, because it's the only way the player gets through the locked gate that's going to be here and advances into the dungeon. So the falling boulder must always hit the guard and destroy him so he can get the key. That means the guard can't be moving about freely, and unfortunately there's no way to make an enemy stand still like we can do with townspeople, so the best we can do is to put the enemy on a very short path. And so as we get started here, I've already taken the liberty of dropping down the Creativitoys that I'm going to need. And all I've done is place these out of the Creativitoys drawer. And one toy, this Asgard Townsperson door, out of the Gameplay Toys drawer. And I've dropped a couple of buttons here, and a level starter. And around the corner I put an enemy wave generator. And then I've got a couple of locators here with a path, and all I did was put down the path creator tool and add 1 point. So it created a very short path. And then I added a falling object generator up here with a locator. And over here are some additional toys that we're going to be using. I've got a replayer, I've got an effects generator, a time delayer, and a kill switch, but we'll get to those later. So the first thing I want to do is set up the enemy wave generator, and we're going to come over here, and I've already taken the liberty to save a little bit of time again and configured the wave, and I've added one Agrabah guard. And if we come down to properties, the only thing I'm going to set out of here for the moment is to take the generation delay to 0. And then we're going to hook up the level starter to that. So new logic connection on catalyze. We'll connect up to the enemy wave generator and generate the wave. And just so I can test this out, we'll hook this button up to the level starter. So a new logic connection when pressed. Connect to the level starter and start. And on the enemy wave generator, we'll do a new locator connection, and I'm going to connect up to this locator here. And we're also going to connect to the path. So we'll do a new path connection on the enemy wave generator and come to the path, if I can select it. And there we go. Now on the path, for the properties on this, I'm going to set the speed to 20, which is kind of a slow walking speed, but it's kind of necessary because otherwise the guard is going to be going back and forth a little too quickly. And I'm also going to turn off this auto start flag. And then we'll come back to the enemy wave generator and back into the properties. Come down to toy box path. And I want to change the movement style to back and forth. So the guard will patrol back and forth along that very short little path. And then I'm going to use this button over here as a reset button. So we'll do a new logic connection when pressed. We'll come over here and defeat the wave. So there's our enemy wave generator. And if we come out over here, and actually, the Jafar's tower up above, if I just appear over there, it's going to put me up on top of that. So I'm going to come out over here. Hi, Genie. And we'll come and push the button, which should generate the guard. He'll attach to the path and then walk back and forth along the path. And again, you can see it's a very small path, so he's staying in a very confined area. And if I made him walk any faster than that, he'd be turning around and turn around, turn around, turn around. It would look kind of weird. So there's our guard. I'll go ahead and take him out for the moment. All right, so now let's add the falling boulder. So we'll come over here to the falling object generator, and we'll do a new locator connection. And I'm going to connect up to this locator. That will be our generation location, and it's at the level of that block there. So it's about 6 blocks in height off the floor, and it's centered right over this locator right here. And that falling boulder is going to be triggered by this townsperson door. So let's look at this. Under the properties, I'm going to change this because I don't want to remove Genie when I toss him in there. And normally, what I will do at the very end is I want this to be disabled, but since we're going to have to test this a few times, I'll leave that off. Detection level, we'll take that up to 1 so that Genie can detect it. Normal response chance up to 10, and I'll leave the explosive response chance set at 0. And then we'll do a new logic connection. When the normal response is returned, we'll come up to the falling object generator, and we're going to drop the boulder. And we'll also come over here to our reset button and do a new logic connection when pressed. Come over to the falling object generator and remove that boulder. So we'll do a remove all. Toss me through the door. All right, and we'll come out over here. Okay, so let's test that out. That seems like that should be simple enough. So first thing I'll do is push this button, which will put the guard in here. And now he starts walking that path, and he's right underneath that locator where the boulder will hit. So we'll pick up Genie, and we'll toss him in the door. Maybe. There we go. And there's the boulder, and it did nothing. So Genie will just go take him out. So let's go ahead and hit this button. So the falling boulder does not injure the enemy at all. And it doesn't matter how high up I place that locator. I can place that thing like 20 blocks up and have that thing fall a super distance, and it's going to do the exact same thing. And since that doesn't work, we're going to have to do something else to make the boulder kill the guard. And so we're going to come in here to the Creativitoys drawer, and we're going to use a trigger area. I'm going to drop this right over here on top of that path. And I'm going to set this to be as low as it can be. And that puts it at the floor level. And there's no way to put it half a block up, so it's going to be 1 block tall. And there's our trigger area. And we're going to do, we're going to connect this over to a kill switch. So we'll do a new logic connection when entered by the physics ball. Come over to our kill switch. Oops, if I can find it. There we go. And we'll have it remove the connected actors. And I'm going to connect this kill switch up and do a new actor connection. And we'll connect that to our enemy wave generator. That'll be our target actor. So when the falling boulder enters the trigger area, it'll tell the kill switch to remove the connected actor, which is the guard. And so that will give us the behavior that we want. So once again, we come out over here, where I'll end up in Jafar's tower. Hello, Genie. And let's put the guard in. So there's our guard, and he connects to the path. He's walking back and forth. Now we pick up Genie, toss him in. And there comes the boulder, and it crushes him, or at least it looks like it does. And I want to make sure I grab my sparks. So there we go. That's the falling boulder. And we can dress this up a little bit and make it a little bit nicer. For one thing, it would be a good idea to remove that boulder because it's just taking up memory and not doing anything. So let's go ahead and I'm going to connect up. Let's see, how do we want to do this? Let's put it off the trigger area. So on the trigger area, we'll do a new logic connection when entered by the physics ball. We'll come over to our time delayer, and we're going to do start a delay. And then on the properties for the time delayer, let's set this at about 10 seconds. And we'll do a new logic connection when the delay is completed. Come up here and remove the boulder. So the boulder will be there for a short time, and when the player leaves the area, basically the boulder will disappear. So that'll be helpful. Now another thing, the guard just kind of vanished. It might be nice to have kind of an impact effect there. And so we're going to hook up an effects generator to kind of dress that up a little. And I want to hit my reset button, so I got to come out over here. This will take that boulder out, make this a little bit easier to work with. Okay, so let's come over to the effects generator, and we'll do a new locator connection, and I'm going to connect that up to this locator right in the middle of that path. And then we'll connect up the trigger area. So new logic connection when entered by the physics ball. Come over to the effects generator, and we're going to play one time. And I want to do under the bursts drawer, we'll do dirt debris. I think that will look pretty good. Alright, so now when we toss Genie in there and the boulder drops and enters the trigger area, not only will it remove the guard, it'll play that effect, and it'll also remove the boulder after a short period of time. So let's go ahead and test that out before we go any further. And we'll come over here and push the button. That will generate the guard. Now he's on the path, so we'll pick up Genie, toss him in the door. That looked pretty good. And then 10 seconds later, that boulder should disappear. And that will save a little bit of memory. So that worked out pretty good. The effects generator helped hide that guard's disappearance, and the time delayer took the boulder out. So last thing we need to do is give the player the key. And for that, we're going to need a locked gate. So we'll come back down to the gameplay toys drawer. Scroll over to the left from that door to the locking gate wall. And I'm going to put this right underneath that block just like that. And then we'll also need the key. And now we're going to use the replayer to put down the key. But I don't want the key to just appear on the floor in front of the gate. I'd kind of like the key to look like it came flying out of that room after the boulder hits the guard. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to come up to the blocks drawer. Or, yeah, the terrain will work. And we're going to use this terrain cube. And I'm going to place this right here just like that. And this is just temporary. And then we'll bring in this replayer over here just for right now to make it easy to access. And I'll put this right here. And we're going to edit the properties for this. And take the playback interval to 0. And then I need to come out of spark mode to activate that. And so we'll step on the replayer, which will bring up the menu in the lower right corner. Press B on my Wii U to begin recording. And then we'll open up the editor. And I'm going to put the key right on top of the block. Just like that. And I need that block there because the key is one of the objects in the game that's affected by gravity. And so if I were to place the key without that block, it would fall to the ground. And then when I played the replayer back, the key would just appear on the ground. And I want this thing to be up in the air. And so let me exit out of the editor. And that puts us up here in Jafar's tower. All right, let's get back out of this. So this is why I'm coming back out over here. Okay, and then we'll go back over to the replayer, which is still recording. And I'll press B to stop recording and A to clear. And then we can go ahead and take that boulder out. This is one of the cases where it might be better to use that magic wand instead of keep coming back and forth over here. All right. And so now, when we use the replayer and we do a playback, the key drops from the ceiling. And I think that's kind of a neat effect. So it doesn't just appear on the floor, it actually drops from the ceiling. And I like that. All right, so now to hook that up, what we're going to do is probably the best way to do this is on the trigger area here. New logic connection when entered by the physics ball. We'll come over to the replayer and we'll do a playback. And now I don't want to hook up my reset button to that replayer because if I hook this button up to clear that and I push this button but I haven't done a playback on there, it'll essentially be doing clear on a replayer that hasn't been played back, and that can corrupt the replayer. So we're going to have to clear this manually. So I'll leave that right there for now. One more time, we'll come back over here. And we'll test this out again. Hello again, Genie. So now we've got the locked gate in there. And I should probably, let's do it. Because I forgot to set the properties on the locked gate. I want to make sure that we remove that key when used. Because I don't want the player to be able to hold onto that key and come over here and use it on this locked gate cage. Okay. Now we'll test it out, and it should work. everything is done. So the level starter goes off when we enter the level, and that will put the guard in, and he connects to that path and wanders the path, and Aladdin and the genie run up, and they see the guard in there. So we'll toss Genie into the door. And I think I'm standing a little too close. There we go. He comes out, Boulder comes down, and there's our key, which we can then pick up and use to open up the door. All right. Now, before I wrap the video up for the day, I want to show you one more thing, because the way I've built this trap is pretty limited. The guard's movement is restricted to this small path here, and because he's attached to that path, he's never going to attack the player. And some of you are probably wondering how you can make this trap work with an enemy that's free to wander and attack the player. And so I've set up another falling boulder trap over here in this lava room, and this is going to be where the pendulum trap will eventually go. And I've got a enemy wave generator already configured, and it's hooked up to this middle button here. So when I push that button, that will add that enemy in there. And then I've hooked this button up to a falling object generator up there, and that's connected to this locator, which is right over top of this spot. And I dropped this X out of the decorations drawer to mark the spot where the boulder will fall. That will help the player figure that out. And so the rest of this is going to be built very similar. The main difference is that we can't use a trigger area, because there's no way to guarantee that the guard will be inside it when the boulder falls. So instead, we're going to use a dynamic trigger. And so I've already dropped that over here, and we're going to connect this up with a new actor connection to our enemy wave generator. That'll be our actor. And on the properties for the dynamic trigger, the target will be the connected actor. And the trigger distance, I'm going to set this to be a 1 block radius around the guard. And so that would be a unit of 4. That would make an 8. Let's set this to 6, I think would be a good size. And we'll try that. And on the enemy wave generator, I'll just show you I've configured the wave for 1 guard. And under the properties, the generation delay I've set to 0. And it's not connected to any path. The guard will be free to wander back and forth along this walkway. And so what we're going to do then is, on the kill switch, once again we'll do a new actor connection to the enemy wave generator. That's our target actor. And on the time delayer, again, I'll set this to 10 seconds. And that we'll use to clear the boulder out. So everything from here out is going to work exactly the same, except instead of a trigger area, it's a dynamic trigger we're using. And again, a dynamic trigger sets up a radius around the actor, in this case the guard. And so as the guard moves, the dynamic trigger area follows him. And so on the dynamic trigger, we'll do a new logic connection. When entered by physics ball, we'll come over to the kill switch and remove the connected actor. So that's the same, it's just coming off of the dynamic trigger instead of the trigger area. And we'll do a new logic connection. When entered by the physics ball, come over to the time delayer and start the delay. And 10 seconds later, the time delayer will do a new logic connection when the delay is completed. Come over here to the falling object generator and remove the boulder. So So there we go. I'm not going to put a effects generator in here because that would work essentially the same as it did the other place. Although maybe I will go ahead and put that in here because it is just a little bit different. So I'll come back up to the Creativitoys because we don't have a locator to connect this to. And so what we'll do instead is on the effects generator, we'll do a new actor connection and we'll connect it up to our guard. That'll be the location where the effect goes. And on the dynamic trigger, we do a new logic connection. When entered by the physics ball, come over to the effects generator and we play one time out of the bursts drawer the dirt debris effect. So there we go. So now we can come over here. Oh, and that put us up here. I hate that bug. All right, let's see, where can I drop down? And put ourselves up here on top of this wall. There's nothing above us. There we go, and then we can just drop down. Okay, so we push this button, that puts the guard in. So there's our guard. And because he's jumped and he sees us and detected us, he's not going to actually move around. And so we're going to need to turn invisible here. So let's go ahead and just drop down an object generator. And let's see, where are we? We'll put this over here. And I'll connect up that same button that puts the guard in there. So when it's pressed, we'll come over to the object generator, and it's under the tools, and it's the invisibility device. There we go. Okay. So I'll push the button again. The guard's already there. And he's right where I want him to be, actually. But we'll go ahead and pick this up. Okay, so he's right there. So when we push the button... Oop, a little bit of a delay there. But it went ahead and killed him. And so it's not quite perfect. We could maybe make that dynamic trigger a little bit bigger. I think the problem with the dynamic trigger is that it doesn't extend upward like it does outward. And so it hit him in the head and then dropped down a little bit. And when it dropped down and hit the floor, then it connected with the trigger area around him. And the trigger area, I think, is more closer to the floor than anything else. And so I think that's what happened there. But we could potentially come over here and tweak this dynamic trigger. Let's see if we can make that area just a little bit bigger. We'll go ahead and change this to 8. And so that would be then a 1 block radius around the player. And if it does extend upward, that's 1 block. 4 units is 1 block upward. So that should put that up at the height where you would expect it to work. So we'll come out up here. And let's go ahead and push the button, put the guard in. That adds the guard. He sees us, but I've got the invisibility device. We'll pick up Genie. Now he's moving. Now we push the button. So yeah, it doesn't look like that trigger area actually extends upward. And so it's not the greatest. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't use the Falling Boulder trap. It's because it's kind of hard to make it work just the way you want it to. But especially with a roaming guard. Another option would be is you could set up a trigger area in here instead of the dynamic trigger. Now let's go ahead and do that just to show you how that would work and make this a complete example. So we could use a static trigger area over top of this. And let's take the dynamic trigger out. And so on this, we'll do a new logic connection when entered. This time, hold on a second, I need one more toy. I need a logic gate. Because if you're going to use a trigger area with a static guard, the only way you can make this work is with a logic gate. So what we'll do is new logic connection when entered by AI, enemy. We'll come over here and open the logic gate. And a new logic connection on the trigger area when exited by AI, enemy. Then we'll go ahead and close that gate. And so if the enemy walks into here, that'll open that logic gate up. And when he walks out of that area, then that closes the logic gate. And then on the trigger area, we can do a new logic connection when entered by the physics ball. We come over to the logic gate and do an input. And on the logic gate, new logic connection on output. Then we can come over to the kill switch and remove the connected actor. And yeah, I think that's the only thing that'll go through that logic gate. And so that way, if the logic gate is closed because the enemy isn't inside this trigger area, then when the boulder collides with this, that signal won't go anywhere because the gate's closed. But what we still want to have happen is on the trigger area, we do a new logic connection when entered by the physics ball. We still want to come over to the time delayer and start the delay to remove that boulder. And we also want to do a new logic connection when entered by the physics ball, come over to the effect generator and play that dirt debris effect. So we see the boulder actually crashing. And in this case, we're going to want to connect up a locator under here for that effect to take place. Because now the effect isn't attached to the guard, it's going to be attached to that spot right there. And so we can do a new locator connection and attach to that. So there we go. So now we'll try it again, and now it should work the way we want. So we'll press the button to generate the guard, and he shows up, and he detects Genie, so I'll pick him up. And now he goes ahead and walks, and we'll press the button, and he's not in the area, so the debris went off, and actually it went off over at him too, so I need to delete the actor link from the effects generator to the enemy wave generator. And you'll notice it didn't defeat the guard because he wasn't in that trigger area. And so now let's see if he'll wander back that way. Come on, dude. Go on. If he doesn't move soon, I'll have to fast forward. Yeah, maybe I'll go ahead and do that. So I'll fast forward until he walks over underneath that thing. There we go. Finally got him to stand where I wanted him to stand. So that's how you build the Falling Boulder trap. Tomorrow I'll take this trap out and show you how to build the fire trap that I used in my toy box instead. It's a much simpler trap, and it's a lot easier to build. Until then, I hope you enjoyed my video today, or at least found it helpful. If you did, please give it a like, and if you want to add this trap to your own toy box, be sure to visit my blog where I've posted logic diagrams that will help you build it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, just click my photo in the lower right corner of this video or the follow button on my blog, and that way you'll never miss any of my episodes. That's all for me today. I'll see you next time.